Frontrunning is one of the coolest, most popular, and most recognizable running styles in Umamusume. They launch away from the rest of the pack at the start of the race, and fight to maintain that lead all the way into the finish. They're so strong and integral to the game that getting in the lobby without a frontrunner feels weird, empty. Without someone to lead the charge, everyone else is thrown way out of position. But the thing is, frontrunners are broken. I don't think it's a very unpopular opinion that it's easily the strongest running style in the game right now. It's good on almost every track, it has super high consistency, and some of the best characters in the game. I'm sure we've all also had that moment where we built such a good ace, she had every skill and distance S and the perfect stat line, and despite everything being spot on according to the guides, she still somehow gets crushed by those triple front players. And good news, it's not your fault. Well, not entirely. Although there are ways to stop the bleeding and take back a bit of consistency on other styles, a well-built frontrunner is always way more likely to win than a well-built Uma of any other role, except Christmas Ogre, but we'll talk about her later. Angling and scheming. I'm not exaggerating when I say this might be the single strongest skill in the game right now. And not just because of its effect. A lot of players actually get this wrong and misunderstand why angling and scheming so fundamentally breaks the game open. So let's take a really quick look at this skill, since I know the majority of you are already familiar with it. In short, as long as you're on a corner in the late race and in first place, you will get that 0.2 acceleration from inherited angling and scheming. You may look at this skill and think that the condition being on a late race corner is super generic, and that's what is broken about that skill. And you'd be half correct. Yes, this skill works on a majority of tracks and champion meets in the game. On practically all mile and medium tracks, along with a chunk of the sprint and long tracks, angling does work well. And that is really broken, I do agree. It's just not particularly interesting or the focus of this video. Being good on every track should not equal this level of dominance that we see in the stats. So it has to be something else. But surely it can't be the acceleration, right? Every style has acceleration skills. 0.2 accel isn't even that much. So my dear audience, what I would like to suggest to you right now is that what makes angling scheming broken is not its effect, but in fact its restriction. You have to be in first place to activate this skill. So what is the deal? Is this YouTuber stupid? How does a restriction make angling and scheming stronger? Well, to explain that, I have to compare it to another skill. Let's look at moving past and beyond, a go-to inherit for lates and ends that activates in positions 5 and 6. And a sharp mind may already be putting things together, as a late charger trying to secure positions 5 or 6 is down to luck. You can manipulate your lobby or skills and try to be there more often, but ultimately it's down to your opponents. In the case of angling and scheming, it's actually really simple to guarantee it. Just be the strongest front in the lobby. Just win that front duel. If you build a really good front ace, there's a higher chance of them hitting angling and scheming. But if you build a really good late ace, the chance of them hitting moving past and beyond doesn't really change at all. But still, is that enough? That's just more consistency, right? That doesn't equal stronger Umas, it just makes them more likely to hit that accel, to hit that angling and scheming. But no, that is not all of it. The rabbit hole goes even deeper. Being in first place is already so in line with what frontrunners want to do, that for the purpose of this video, we can consider it similar to a non-positional accel. And what do frontrunners want to do? They want to take the lead, push up and widen that gap mid-race to stay in first place. It may sound like I'm going in circles, but when you compare it to moving past and beyond, what happens when you do push up too far for that skill? It doesn't proc, you don't get your accel. You get punished for closing that gap between you and the frontrunners. And to illustrate this point, let's look at an example. Let's say there's two fronts in a lobby, a pace, and the rest of the racers are lates and ends. Let's also say that the gap between fronts and lates is this wide. It simply became an impossible race to win. The frontrunners pushed up too far, used all of their mid-race speed skills, and the distance between you two is just too much. You could hang around 5th and get your accel, but the fronts are too far away, and you just can't close that gap by the finish line. You would end 2nd. Or you could try to push up mid-race. You have a ton of speed skills, and you close that gap just enough, where now, if you do accel, you can beat those fronts. But wait, your position is now 4th, and you don't hit your crucial accel in time to win. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I don't mean that every lobby is impossible like this one, just that frontrunners are free to take as much space mid-race as they want, while Umas relying on positional accels are at the mercy of their surroundings. There are ways, of course, to combat this. You can manipulate the lobby positioning with Umas of your own, or run debuffers to slow down the fronts, and effectively cut that gap you have to cross. Or, just maybe, you could use their greatest strength against them, with A. To be a true non-positional accel, there's only one requirement: to not have a positional activation. But that is very rare, and for this video, we'll be lumping some other similar accels under that umbrella. Angling and Scheming technically has a strict activation position, but it's one that does not limit the class at all. The same could be said for other skills, like Redshift. During CM13 or the Japanese Derby, Redshift was active at the right time on that track. And although its conditions are being 5th place and higher, it actually had a better win rate on lates and ends than Let's Pump Some Iron, and was used alongside Moving Past and Beyond. Now why was that? You might be getting it now. It's because those lates and ends were allowed to push up as far as they wanted mid-race and not be punished for it. This is a rich get richer scenario. The stronger Umas with more speed got both to close the distance and got access to an acceleration skill. Even if they lost Beyond, they still got the Redshift Accel and were able to close that gap between them and the paces and fronts, which was a big contributing factor to the CM being so Oshi friendly. No Stopping Me and Nimble Navigator aren't such high win rate skills because they're consistent. In fact, the requirement of being blocked is actually pretty inconsistent, but what makes them work so well on lates and ends is that they have no positional requirement. If you build a really strong gold chip and she pushes up to 4th place, she can still proc this skill from there. And with all of that sudden space that she took, this accel from 4th place will immediately translate to a win. That is why angling is so busted, because it allows fronts to play like this just so consistently. When they pop a million mid-race skills, they aren't just fighting each other for angling, they are fighting the back line too. Now I really want to drive home this point that non-positional accels are the strongest skills in the game. It's not just a coincidence. Your game plan on every single Uma should be taking that mid-race space, and it directly translates to wins. So what better way to do that than by bringing up the 2 strongest possible examples, the only 2 things which have ever been in discussion for dethroning frontrunners. Since the beginning of the game, enclosures have been the only running style that have ever been as powerful as frontrunners. But only situationally, on long tracks and other select few tracks where straightaway spurt works. And by now, my smart viewer, I'm sure you could tell where I'm going with this. Straightaway spurt has no positional requirement. You can be 1st place or you can be last place, it doesn't matter. Just like frontrunners on tracks where this skill is active, enclosers can use as many speed skills as they want and close this gap. And just like angling, the effect itself isn't that strong, it's just a 0.2 accel. The strength of the skill comes from the fact that it allows you to push up and still get that accel. Let's look at Gold Chip. She's often seen as just as strong or stronger than Narita Taishin. If Taishin has Encroaching Shadow, and Gold Chip's awakening skills kind of suck, how is this the case? It's just her unique. Anchors Away is an incredibly broken skill because of just how much distance it gives you. 6 seconds of 0.25 speed, in a game where duration scales with track distance, makes her unique top tier whenever Spurt is in the equation. And the reason I'm saying all of this is to make sure you understand that non-positional accels aren't broken in a vacuum. They're only good in conjunction with the mid-race speed skills. If you only have the accels and you don't have the mid-race, then you'll still be losing to those moving past and beyonds and the shooting for victories, etc. Now for our last example, Christmas Ogre. It is exactly the same. On tracks where you can make Festive Miracle proc at a good time, the effect itself isn't even obscenely powerful. It's 0.3 accel and 0.25 target speed. That's great, don't get me wrong, but do you think it is a coincidence that all of the best characters in the game are using an accel that does not care about position? Encloser Ogre usually has a super high win rate, and that's because Festive Miracle performs the same way as Spurt. You have better mid-race skills than pace because of Daring Strike, so you can take better advantage of your late race speed by moving up and then proccing Festive. Festive Miracle is literally just Spurt. You may have noticed by now that this is not just a frontrunner video. It is a video about how accels and mid-race skills have made frontrunners such a dominant running style. And this is a topic that I think deserves to be explored more in the community because everyone just talks about what skills are good and never why they're good. And despite what I may have made it sound like, positioning is not everything to making an acceleration skill good. The effect of the skill still needs to be reliable too, or else it was kind of all for nothing. For instance, on your left got buffs to activate from 4th and lower into the 5th and lower, which is amazing and it makes it a lot more lenient than before. Unfortunately, it still has the problem where it usually activates later than you want it to, which is why on your left and neck and Ignited Spirit Power aren't busted broken skills. But I do hope that in the future when Cygames adds more skills to the game, you think of this video and you take a look at the position requirements for those skills and decide for yourself if they are good and worth going for or not. More lenient skills like Claw Forward, a liturgic skill that requires 4th or lower position, are just going to be stronger than skills like Let's Pump Some Iron, which requires 6th, or Moving Past and Beyond, which is 5 or 6. And maybe you could take some of the other things I mentioned here and apply them immediately to your own builds too. Trying to make a later end work on medium, look at ways that you can close that gap between you and the Ogres on the fronts. Maybe try to get Nimble Navigator just to see what I'm talking about. Anyways, thank you all for watching till the end. I put a lot of effort into this video, so if you want to see more like it, consider liking and subscribing. We're on the way to 1K, and that would just be really awesome. And that's about it. See ya.